Hello and welcome everyone to Codeword Barbelon 666 Danger in the Vatican, read and discussed by Jörg Glismann and I on December 24th, 2017. I am re-recording an introduction, mainly because I am very upset with the way it turned out. So forgive me for that, and we'll just go right into the next session here. Yeah, we are going to continue here on our study of this most intriguing book,
Codeword Barbelon, yeah.
The Constitutions of the Jesuits, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to retreat to the last paragraph on page 30 to read that a little bit in, because with the first paragraph on page 31 that goes together, so we need to understand that correctly. And by the way, welcome everybody to this new reading. Thanks for the introduction, Bret, that I missed, but I really had
No
to go.
problem.
I really had to go to the bathroom for a second also.
No, that's good. That's good. Please.
To make that sure.
That's good.
Okay, then we're gonna start right now here on the bottom of page 30. The government who examined the documents, the Breton La Châtelet. Breton is, Bretagne. That's the place in France, so that's why it's called that's why he's called the Breton. He is from the place of Bretagne. That's where you make Calvados and cider and all that stuff. Yeah?
Gotcha.
People know that maybe better than just the word the Breton.
Okay.
The government lawyers who examined the documents, the Breton Le Châtelet in particular, quote, discovered in the constitutions a handbook of every known form of heresy, idolatry, and superstition. It provides, he said, tutelage in suicide, legicide, means the destruction of laws, and regicide also, that is the destructing of a government, and every kind of impurity, usury, sorcery, murder, cruelty, hatred, vendetta, insurrection, and treason. Thus were the Jesuits confounded tanta nube testium, by such a cloud of witnesses, their own constitutions without any need to rely on the secreta monita. And yet, the Jesuits say that the constitutions are an quote-unquote inspiration of the Holy Spirit. What Holy Spirit is that? Well, we're gonna read.
What is that?
We're gonna read on, because here the author says, how ironic that it was Jesus, after whom the Jesuit order named itself, who said, there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, and hid that shall not be known. And that we can read in Matthew 10:26. I think. If I have the if I have the correct footnote here.
Good. Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
And it is even more ironic that it was the discovery of their constitutions which was the principal grounds for the decree ordering the suppression of the Jesuit order in France, 1762, as a society most diabolical and dangerous. Well, I don't want to go too far into the suppression of the Jesuit order in France in 1762, because we know that during the years running to 1773, the Jesuit order was banned and suppressed in a lot of countries, not only in Europe. At the whole time, at least 50 countries or so altogether, they were suppressed. But we know, because we read all these books also between the lines, that this was part of the strategy of the at that time reigning superior general of the Society of Jesus, Lorenzo Ricci, to make it appear to the outside world that the Jesuits are of no power anymore. And when the Jesuits are overwon, when the Jesuits are done, when they are toast, or whatever you want to call it, by especially the Pope of the bull of the Pope, Dominic Ac Redemptor, with which Pope Clement XIV suppressed the Jesuits. No, I lost my train of thoughts here.
Yeah, it's a lot to keep track of.
It's a long sentence that I wanted to say.
Yes, yes.
Everything that Lorenzo Ricci was dealing with was to the end to make the outworld, to give to the outward world a sign that the Jesuits are not there anymore. And therefore nobody would suspect them to found the United States of America.
Mm.
And
Yep.
that's what they did. And for
Yep, the
confirmation,
common view, the common people, the lay people, the people that they require to, just this is how it's taught, and this is the way you need to be, and you got to stick to these rules, and that's how we've established it, and church and state. All right, Jörg, I'm sorry I had to say that.
there's the official teaching about how the United States of America came together, and then there is the unofficial teaching. And when you do not know the unofficial teaching, you will never understand it. But when you're
Yeah.
doing Bible study, and you know that the second beast of Revelation 13 is the United States of America, well, that doesn't come out of nothing all of a sudden. There had to be the soil had to be prepared, and then the prepared soil had to be planted, and then afterwards came the harvest. And those are actually the three titles of the books of the Ark and the Dove: the preparation of the soil, the planting of the seeds, and then the harvest. And the harvest was 1776. Nobody understanding that the Jesuits even founded that country. Therefore, they needed to be suppressed at that moment because nobody would suspect them. No, everybody talks only about the Illuminati, who have been founded in May 1st, 1776, and whose sign you find in the seal of the United States and on the back of your dollar bill.
That's right.
Yeah? Everybody speaks
That's
about the
absolutely
Illuminati,
right.
nobody speaks about the Jesuits, not understanding that the Illuminati are just a front organization where the Jesuits hid behind. And the
Yes.
Jesuits needed to be suppressed so that they could get secular, that they could reappear afterwards, as one of the American presidents said in a letter to another one. I don't get this who they are right now, but you can look that up. That he says that the Jesuits come over here in swarms and disguises as only the king of the gypsies can do, as bankers, as lawyers, as publishers, as any kind
that
of
quote is
quote-unquote
in
lay
The
people.
Secret Terrorists, the book by Bill Hughes that I was reading too. Yeah, I
Yeah, but
remember.
they come over in swarms of kind of lay people, but there are
Yes.
Jesuits behind there. So
Yeah.
this order of the Jesuits had to be secularized to foment the revolution, with which the Revolutionary War, at which end stood the founding of the United States of America. And nobody would even suspect the Jesuits to have any do in it, because, hey, they were suppressed, they were non-existent.
Yes, and this leads right into that conversation we had in our last reading. We were talking exactly about this, and it's really a big lesson in learning that yes, the United States is actually the second beast to rise up out of the earth from the wilderness, and how our nation here was established upon some pretty bloody things. It's very humbling to come to these lessons, and I think that most Americans would never want to admit it because they're too proud, too proud of this wicked nation and all the wicked things it does, and they just don't have the time to do any questioning or studies. It's a shame because their souls are at stake.
The American people think that their foundation is that they are the home of the brave and the free, and not of the betrayed.
Yes.
And that's the problem.
Yes.
But I don't
Yes,
want to. I
it
don't
is.
even want to go back into the founding of the United States of America
No.
anymore. I have done
Sure.
that more than enough. But it's just that the suppression of the
Yes,
Jesuit
that's right.
order in France in 1762 is one of the forerunners to the suppression of the Jesuits altogether, and that was the main working goal of Lorenzo Ricci, the superior
yes.
general who started
Wow.
his reign over the Jesuit order in 1758 and had control over the popes. He had control over Clement XIII, He had control over Clement XIV. He was a pupil. Clement XIV was the pupil of Lorenzo Ricci, and he even made sure that he got his cardinal place and everything else. And, you know, this is so deep, but therefore you have to read Rulers of Evil and The Ark and the Dove and probably another few books in conjunction, and to read between the lines, and then you will understand that. But the point is that the author here mentions the suppression of the Jesuit order in 1762, and there have been many suppressions between 1758 and 1773, the time when Clement XIV suppressed the Jesuit order once and for all, as he said in his bull Dominic Ac Redemptor. Anyway, the findings in the constitutions, the author continues, led the well-known authority Charles W. Hagethorn to state of the alleged forged Secreta Monita, quote, even if these monita were not drawn up by the Jesuit, they yet fully exhibit the actual principles on which, as we know from history, the society has always acted, and that every kind of deception, assassination, regicide, poisoning, seduction, unnatural crimes, spoliation, perjury have ever been practiced and approved by them, whenever their doing so could promote their own ends, unquote. For they gave an accurate picture of Jesuit ideas. All of the principles and instructions given in the Monita are to be found in the constitutions, and also an accurate picture of Jesuit ideas are given in the oath of the Jesuit order. Therefore you can turn to one of my earliest videos, Nothing But the Truth, where I made a video 3 hours long on the oath of the Jesuits, on the devilish oath of induction of the Jesuit, the oath of the fourth vow. And in the Bible it says, by their fruits you will know them, by their deeds. So actually you don't even need the Secreta Monita, you don't need the constitutions of the Jesuits, you don't even need the oath of the Jesuits. Just when you see what they are doing, by their fruits you will know them. Their fruits are a mirror of the oath. Their fruits are a mirror, or the fruits of their works is a mirror of their oath, of their constitutions, and of the Secreta Monita. And of course all these papers are not forgeries. Remember, we have this picture in the Vatican, in the St. Peter's Basilica, where Jesuit General Loyola holding up the representations of the constitutions, which is inscribed with the Jesuit motto Ad Majorem Dei Gloriam, and on the other hand it says Constitutions Societa de Jesus. So this is no conspiracy theory. Those are hard conspiracy facts. A conspiracy of eventually the devil against all of mankind. Kind reader, P.D. Stuart continues, if from a sense of misguided loyalty to the organization to which this order belongs, you are wont to regard these men as acting contrary to the principles of their religion, the quote-unquote Holy Catholic Church, then I remind you that these very constitutions were approved by Antichrist Pope Paul III on September 27th, 1540. After his careful consideration, and have been approved by every Antichrist, by every Pope ever since. Thus, the Jesuits act vicariously to the Popes. In the constitutions we find the Jesuits teaching and inciting, amongst other things, high treason, regicide, meaning killing of the king, and parricide, means murder of a close relative. Such acts are not only acceptable, but also positively commanded by the constitutions for the furtherance of the aims of the order and the interests of the Pope. And no marvel, for the Jesuit educator Emmanuel Sa writes, quote, the rebellion of an ecclesiastic against a king is not a crime of high treason, because he is not subject to the king. Unquote. The Jesuits have even written books on the subject of the right to murder the king, and anyone else for that matter. In one such book, authored by the Jesuit Jacques Keller and printed in 1611, what an interesting date for a Jesuit to publish a book, huh? 1611. There is a chapter under the heading Tyrannicidium. The Jesuit Juan de Mariana published an earlier book called The King and the Education of the King in 1599, in which he advocated and defended tyrannicide. Quote, the constitutions further revealed that in... no, that's not a quote, sorry. The constitutions further revealed that in order to fulfill the society's mission, the members of the order would create philosophies of left and right, so that the world would be divided into opposing factions. Yeah, I made a mark on this little paragraph, and you will understand why in a second.
Yes.
Because I had to fix my mic here a little.
Yes,
because
please.
this is the basis of what we call today Hegelian dialectic.
Synthesis.
Thesis,
Okay.
antithesis, and synthesis. Yeah.
Yeah.
The left
right.
and right paradigm. And I don't want to go into that right now, but you can go on my YouTube channel and you can type in grandfather's clock. And then you will find a video from Tom Frass from Inquisition Update where he will tell you about the left-right paradigm, how it plays in with the Hegelian dialectic, and how you are deceived by thinking that when you are throwing the right paradigm of the politics to the left paradigm of politics, that you are actually changing something. The only thing that changes is like when you have a grandfather clock, the hand on the clock. That changes. The pendulum that swings from left to right never changes. And Tom Frass explains that very good in this 15-minute or something video, Grandfather's Clock. So, Bret, you can probably put the picture up here at this moment when I'm reading this of this video.
Sure. You bet.
Maybe even put the link of the video in the description box of it, and people can look that up for yourself. Because, you know, when we go into explaining everything to this detail, then the book won't be done in 100 years from now. And seeing that I'm already 51, I don't think that I live 100 years more.
No, me neither. Yeah.
Needless to say, P.D. Stuart continues, as a result of these discoveries, i.e. those uncovered in the constitutions, the Jesuit order was dissolved in 1762, and finally in 1764 the sons of Loyola were driven out of France, mainly because of their attachment to the bloody doctrines of regicide and the obstinate refusal to modify their constitutions. We shall learn more on that later in this book. Now there is also the defense of the Jesuits, because we were speaking about the court and the court case of Lavalette, where they were forced to produce the constitutions. Now we are dealing with the defense of the Jesuits. Is there maybe a comment, Bret, that you want to give up to here?
Oh, no, please, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
I'm just listening in.
Yeah, I just don't want to run over you. I want to give you the time also.
No, thank you. Yeah, no,
respond,
I'm definitely absorbing this in.
Okay.
All right.
In defense of the Jesuits, the author continues, to be fair to the Jesuits, sorry, why should I be fair to the devil?
Yeah, really.
To be fair to the Jesuits, they did make a reply to the above charges entitled Réponse aux assertions, meaning response to the assertions, attempting to discredit the facts collected by the commissioners of the French Parliament. It described the greater part of the commissioners' report as malicious fabrications. But the Jesuits' reply was feeble and ineffectual. Moreover, Henry Hadley Norris, the author of the Principles of the Jesuits, assures us that the charges of the French Parliament against the Jesuits were independently verified. He writes, quote, to ascertain the validity of this, the said impeachment, the libraries of the two universities of the British Museum and of Sion College have been searched for the authors cited, and in every instance where the volume was found, the correctness of the citation established. Unquote.
Okay, Jörg, I have a quick comment.
Mhm.
That word ascertain, important word, to ascertain the validity. Yes. I just wanted to add that it's pronounced ascertain because it's one of these big words. I remember when I learned this word, it was like, oh, okay, ascertain. I've hardly even used this word.
I pronounced it wrongly. I said ascertain.
That's okay. I just
I guess,
wanted
yeah.
to correct that so that
Okay.
our
Okay.
listeners
To
know.
ascertain the validity of this,
Yes.
to ascertain the validity of this, that the
The said
of
impeachment,
this
yeah.
impeachment, the libraries of the two universities of the British Museum and Science College have been searched for the authors cited, and in every instance where the volume was found, the correctness of the citation established. Yeah, thank you very much for correcting me
You're
there.
welcome. Yes.
Ascertain. I will not forget that
Hmm.
probably again.
Good, good.
In the end, after a thorough investigation, the French Parliament gave a most thunderous denunciation of the Jesuit order. This, my dear listener, is what the American Congress should have done when the Pope was invited in
Mm.
2015.
Oh, okay.
Now
Please.
listen what the French Parliament said. Quote, the aforementioned institute, meaning the Jesuits, tending to introduce into the Church and the States, under the specious veil of a religious institute, is not an order which aspires truly and only to evangelic perfection, but rather a body politic, whose gasoline consists in a continual activity to arrive by all kinds of ways, direct or indirect, deaf means secret or public, the usurpation of any authority, to form a widespread immense body in all the states without really forming part of it, can exert its empire on the min and any state and of any dignity, so that it gets members in the various nations, and by its constitutions has the execution of the plan that the aforementioned company had proposed, to acquire immense riches, which while preparing in the shade, by veiling nevertheless its intentions, adopting for its doctrines the fatal teaching which makes it possible to calumniate. Is that correct? Calumniate?
Collum Colluminate. Yeah, I think so. Hmm.
Calumniate? To
Hmm.
persecute and to even kill in any state where it would be introduced. By its consequent control with its constitutions tends to undermine little by little any legitimate authority, any administration, and to destroy the bond of all the parts of the body politic. All the more alarming that the laws of the aforesaid institute, the Jesuits, are a true fanaticism, reduced to a theory, so dangerous a company nothing could stop, since this time the course of the doctrines regicide. Unquote. This is how the French understood the Jesuit order. Why don't we understand the Jesuit order in that way
Mm.
today?
Hmm. That's right.
And what is their ultimate objective in all these intrigue? What is the grand ambition, their avowed aim? Total world domination, at any costs and by any means. So says Fyodor Dostoevsky in an exquisitely written passage from his book, The Brothers Karamazov. Quote, those are the worst of the Catholics, the Inquisitors, the Jesuits. They are simply the Romish army for the earthly sovereignty of the world in the future, with the Pontiff of Rome for emperor. That's their ideal. Something like a universal selfdom, with them as masters. That's all they stand for. They don't even believe in God, perhaps. Unquote. Well, I can assure you that they believe in God, but it is not the God of the Bible. They believe in Satan because they are Satanists. That is to say,
That's correct. That is correct. They are not Luciferians because Lucifer was condemned. He's only mentioned once in the Bible, and there's a reason for that, right, Jörg?
Yeah, and there's a difference between Luciferianism and Satanism.
Yes.
But I don't
Yes.
think that this is the
Exactly.
time to go into that and to explain that to the people,
No. Yeah. Exactly.
because that would really take too long, the difference
It
between
does.
Satanism
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
Luciferianism.
Right.
Anyway, the author continues, that is to say, if Dostoevsky is right, the total destruction of democratic society and its laws upon the ruins of which they would plant their ultramontane ideals. Historian James Atkin Wiley explains the Jesuit enterprise from another perspective. Quote, of the craft of the Jesuits, the arts they employed, the disguises they wore, the editions they sold, the snares they laid for the life of the sovereign, and the plots they concocted for the overthrow of the Protestant Church, we shall have much opportunity to speak when we come to narrate the history of Protestantism in Great Britain. Unquote. In particular, we shall look at the scheme to destroy in one fell swoop the entire monarchy, the Parliament, and the most senior judges of England. Yeah, we are building up to the gunpowder plot, huh?
Yes. Very good. Mm-hmm.
It was such diabolical schemes that further prompted Wiley to say, quote, what a harvest of plots, tumults, seditions, revolutions, torturings, poisonings, assassinations, regicides, and massacres has Christendom reaped from the seed sown by the Jesuits. Unquote. And as if that was not enough, he adds grimly, nor can we be sure that we have seen the last and greatest of their crimes. No, we have not seen the last and greatest of their crimes. The last and greatest of their crimes is the re-fulfilling of Daniel's 70th week, meaning Daniel chapter 9 verses 24 through 27, when they put a fake Antichrist in a rebuilt temple in Jerusalem. That is their last and greatest deception, because that is the greatest deception since the Garden of Eden. And I made a video about that in beginning of 2015, I think. And
Yep.
you can look
Yep.
that.
And both Jörg and I have that up on our channels.
Yeah,
That's
and
right.
you can look that up. It's called The Greatest Deception Since the Garden of Eden, and that deals with that futurist lie. And that actually is their goal, because then the people are so, how do you say,
Yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah.
the people are so,
Deluded.
yes, yeah, deluded, so out of sense. I
Yes.
just don't come
Taken
to the
by
word.
surprise.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Just complete. I mean, that's really what's going on.
They don't know scripture anymore, and therefore they believe every theater the Ratio Studiorum Jesuits will play for them, and they will play.
I should just quick say for our new listeners, if there's anyone that just tuned into this broadcast for the very first time, you really ought to consider watching that. It's absolutely an incredible look into this delusion that's occurring, and this global synthesis that Tom Fress speaks about in his show or his program, Hour of the Truth.
Tom Fress in Inquisition Update. Huh?
Inquisition Update, yes. Inquisition Update. I'm sorry, I said Hour of the Truth, but they're really the same, just different. Of course, First Amendment Radio is where you want to go to tune into Tom Fress at the current moment. He's reading a book from Martin Luther on the councils of the church, right, Jörg?
Yeah, that is the same. Where is the thing that I read now,
Mm-hmm.
against the Roman papacy and institution of the devil, that is in the same book. The Works of
Yes.
Martin Luther, Volume 41, and this is just the beginning of
Right.
the book.
Right.
Against the Papacy is the end of the book. In the middle you have Against Hans Wurst, and in the beginning you have On the Council and the Churches. This is what Tom is busy with right now. Yeah, that's right.
Yes, that's right.
And yeah, we have, as James Edgar Wiley says here, nor can we be sure that we have seen the last and greatest of their crimes. The last and greatest of their crimes is the re-fulfillment of Daniel's 70th week, which our Lord Jesus Christ perfectly fulfilled 2,000 years ago already.
That's right. That's right.
These are indeed grave assertions, which we will seek to verify using only the best evidence, for it is an axiom that an historian must have sources, and he who asserts must prove. In this task we shall leave no stone unturned. As the Jesuit professors at Rome say, quote, "It is better to overkill than to leave half dead." Unquote. Nor
That's
will we,
pretty wicked.
yeah.
All right, please go
Nor
ahead.
will we waste a single arrow from our quiver. Our words, we hope, shall fly like arrows to their targets, and we shall, where necessary, volley with a multitude of proofs in support. The evidence, we hope, will prove conclusive to dissolve your doubts. I assure you, however, dear reader, that we shall seek to use only lawful means in this effort, in opposition to the Jesuits who say
Yes,
that the end justifies the means,
that's right.
and they will use every means to reach their goal, and we will only use lawful means in this effort. Nevertheless, you would agree that weapon must match weapon, and wit must match wit, for it is useless to use a walking stick against the bayonet, or a crossbow against a rifle. We shall use the hammer of reason to batter the stronghold of iniquity, and we shall put hard at few loose strings in the cloak of deception, which, when pulled long enough, unravels the entire fabric, revealing the mystery of iniquity within the papal church. When all is said and done, we shall see, too, that the moral theology of the Jesuits infects all of the secret societies, and that it produces in them all manner of corruptions. In so doing, it is my hope, P.D. Stuart speaking, people will be stirred and society aroused to the danger that is fast bearing down upon us, threatening to crush democracy and plant religious fascism upon its ruins. That's
Ooh,
what you're looking out for in the United States of America.
ooh. That is one big paragraph there.
That is one big paragraph, yeah.
Ooh.
In so doing, it is my hope, P.D. Stuart says, people, and I repeat most and for all, the people of the United States of America, hopefully, will be stirred and society aroused to the danger that is fast bearing down upon us, threatening to crush democracy and plant religious fascism upon its ruins. You don't have to be afraid of Sharia law of the Muslims. If anything, be afraid of Roman Catholic canon law, which is
There we
much
go.
worse.
No one will ever tell you about that on the nightly news.
No,
No way.
they are only using Islam for a distraction. Islam is one of the
Synthesis,
swords
yeah.
of the Roman Catholic Church that it uses to defend its enemies. I have a hiccup a little bit.
Oh, let me read this quickly from 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 3. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations and everything that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. And that's again, 2 Corinthians chapter 10, 3 through 5.
And then after that, read Ephesians chapter 6, verses 12 until the end.
Oh, yes.
To put the whole armor of God and to see against what wickedness that you are fighting. Because this is not a carnal fight. Also, the fight against the Jesuits is not a carnal fight. We can never win when we take a knife or a gun and gun these people down. We can never win. We can only win when we have the full armor of God, when we have the truth, when we can convince people of what the Jesuits actually stand for, and by that they don't believe what the Jesuits tell them or teach them anymore.
I have that in front of me. Was that 12 through 18?
Ephesians 6, yeah, I read that already in the beginning, right?
Okay, good. Yeah, we don't need to do it again. So,
P.D. Stuart continues, the Jesuits, we shall prove, control the vertical, horizontal, and almost everything in between. Indeed, for some time now, the Jesuits have been in possession of banking corporations, oil refineries, sugar and farm operations, mineral mining corporations, and all kinds of commercial operations, bringing in hundreds of thousands of dollars each year, even millions. No, I go farther, even billions. If you want to know how deep the arm of the Jesuit order in banking, oil refineries, other farm operations, mineral mining corporations, and all that stuff that P.D. Stuart counts here is, and all the other stuff, then I advise you to go to one of my videos in the playlist Nothing But the Truth, where I speak of the power of the Knights of Malta. The Knights of Malta is the top organization by the Jesuits that comes out in the open. And the Knights of Malta own all these things. And when you understand the Knights of Malta and you know that behind the Knights of Malta are the Jesuits, you see that they have every aspect of world economy in their hand. And that is also why Bret made last time the link to Revelation 18, verse 23. The Bible tells us already. The merchants of the earth. Who are the merchants of the earth? The Jesuits are. And in the time of the United States of America founding, they controlled the East India Trading Company and all that. And today they control globalism, what they call globalism. The concentration of all productive and selling goods all over the world in a few little conglomerates. And all these conglomerates are controlled by the Jesuit order, even today. And of course abolishing by that the middle class, which is a result of the Protestant movement, the Reformation movement. Yeah?
Sure.
The Jesuit order can finance any political candidate in millions of US dollars if necessary. The order also owns several multi-million-dollar companies, including Bank of America and Lockheed Martin Aviation Group. Now, to tell you about, and I don't want to go deep into this, that the Jesuits own the Bank of America. I made a video in Hour of the Truth. I don't come to the title right now. You have to look for the archives there, where I read, I think it was in one of the letters of Signs of the Times, where we are told about how Hollywood came to be what it is today. And that it was actually founded on a credit that came from Bank of America, that was before a Bank of Italy or something called like that. But therefore you have to go to the archives of Hour of the Truth and browse a little bit through that and see that. So what P.D. Stuart says here is reaffirmed in that broadcast that I did more than a year ago in Hour of the Truth at that time. The order also owns several multi-million-dollar companies, no, even multi-billion-dollar companies, including the Bank of America, and what they also own, which what he doesn't say here. Well, yeah, we were speaking about here this Giannini. Okay, that's coming on. What he doesn't say here is the Jesuit order, through their papal knighthoods, controls the Federal Reserve. the Federal Reserve for the United States of America dollar system, and the European Central Bank in Frankfurt, which is the basis for the euro system. They are all controlled by the Jesuits. And they also control the BIS, the Bank of International Settlement in Basel in Switzerland, which is the mother of all central banks in the world, which is Rothschild owned. And the Rothschilds are the guardians of the Vatican treasury, according to the Jewish Encyclopedia. It is actually so easy. You follow the right track, it will always lead you to a Jesuit. And by that it will lead you to the corrupt Roman Catholic Church, the Church of Satan, or the Synagogue of Satan.
I'm glad you bring that up, Jörg, because there are people out there that are not really aware how sticky Jesuitism is. And you'll call someone a Jesuit and they'll say, no, he's not a priest. Well, no, he's not a priest, but he's using Jesuit principles. That's the point. Yes, please.
He is a secularized Jesuit.
Yes, exactly.
Not all Jesuits have to be Jesuit priests. And a lot of them are priests, but even hidden priests. They are not priests out in the open,
Right, like one of the researchers that we know terms them as coadjutors. Well, it's just as simple as you use Jesuit principles, you're Jesuit. It's that simple.
It's that simple, yeah.
Therefore,
you do not need to be a priest all the time.
Right.
But even when you are a Jesuit coadjutor, and even starting with a degree of the novice, you are a Jesuit. You follow Jesuit principles and you follow the Jesuit hierarchy. And you are brainwashed by their spiritual exercises.
Yeah, so when I say Barack Obama is a Jesuit, and we can prove it, don't take it like he's a priest. That's not the point. It means he's working with the Jesuit order. He's working with the priesthood. He's not actually physically part of the priesthood on his face, but underneath it, he is. So, yeah, it's tricky stuff.
Yeah, and that's not only for Barack Obama, that also counts for Donald Trump.
Oh, absolutely.
Who has been visiting Fordham University for a few years and studied at Penn U for a few years. He is Jesuit controlled on the Roman Catholic hand on the one hand, and he is Jesuit controlled through being a Freemason on the other hand.
Yeah, all the presidents have been Jesuits. Either they come out of it, like Kennedy may have come out of it and then was assassinated, but he's a rare example today, a modern example of what happens when someone starts to come out of that.
All the American presidents that did not adhere to the power of the Jesuit order were assassinated.
That's right.
Abraham Lincoln, and I got these few other ones in Harrison, Taylor, Buchanan.
There we go. Got it.
There are still a few more. I think at least 6 American presidents were assassinated, and every assassination can be traced back to the Jesuit order. That when they don't do the bidding of the Jesuit order, they are assassinated, like the popes also. Most recent example of a pope that has been killed by the Jesuits is Pope John Paul I in 1978, the year of the 3 popes. You had first Paul VI, who died, and then you had John Paul I, who died after 33 days, and then came John Paul II, who reigned until 2005, and then came in this 25 years CEO, let's say, of the Inquisition, Ratzinger. Yeah. But anyway, let's not go too far away. P.D. Stuart just mentioned here, including the Bank of America is owned by the Jesuits. He says here, Bank of America was founded in 1904 by an Italian immigrant and staunch Roman Catholic. It was initially called Bank of Italy, so that's what I just said a few minutes before. I didn't read it, but I remembered that from the show I did on Hour of the Truth, where I speak about that. That Bank of Italy, but was renamed the Bank of America in 1928. Its founder, Amadeo Peter Giannini, was acting as an agent for the Jesuit order, a fact, according to the United States Congress House Committee, that, quote, has never been denied by the Jesuit fathers, unquote. Today, the Jesuit order owns 51% of the stock of the Bank of America. See German magazine Der Spiegel, The Mirror, August 13, 1958. Der Spiegel is one of Germany's most respected magazines and is Germany's magazine of record. Well, Der Spiegel, The Focus we also have today, and Der Stern, those are the Star. Those are the three magazines of importance in Germany, like you have Time and all that stuff over there in the United States of America. And as I said, this Amadeo Peter Giannini, he gave a loan of $2 or $3 million to the people who founded with that loan a movie company. Which one was it? I'm not sure if it was MGM.
Okay.
I'm not sure anymore. But you know, it's that company that did Gone with the Wind. And
would that be Columbia?
Elmer Gantry?
No, I don't know.
No, that's not Columbia.
I don't know.
Anyway, I have to look that up, therefore, in Signs of the Times. It's an hour of the truth, and follow that, and then you can research that for yourself. Like I always say, do your own research. It's in there. I cannot keep everything with me. I think it's 20th Century Fox.
There we go. Yeah, that sounds right.
I think it's that one. I'm not sure. And that one was founded on a loan from Bank of America, formerly known as Bank of Italy, by the Jesuits.
Yeah,
so
that
the
sounds
Jesuits,
right.
the Jesuits by that founded Hollywood, and they still run it. They put here and there a Jew in front of it, okay, but they run it behind the scenes. And if you don't believe that, don't know that, turn to my broadcast Hour of the Truth. It's simply amazing, where I read a newsletter of Daryl Eberhard on that subject, and I go for an hour and a half very deep into the Jew deception in this world.
I think I have that one up on my channel too, Jörg.
That's possible, yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Interestingly, A.P. Giannini was later appointed regent at the Jesuit University of California in Berkeley. Oh, did you know that Berkeley is a Jesuit university? Now, we always read about people who studied at Berkeley and say, oh, fine people, and they never tell us with that Berkeley is a Jesuit-led university. Nor are we surprised to learn that Martin Delaney, in Chicago, a Chicago native and Jesuit-educated Catholic who studied for the priesthood, is now, quote, writing training programs for Bank of America, unquote. Bank of America is the creator of the Visa card system in 1977. It could well be called the Jesuit Bank of America. Der Spiegel, the German magazine, translated The Mirror, also says that the Jesuits own controlling stocks in Phillips Petroleum. The Jesuits have extensive financial influence in television and radio too, as well as in the print media. Okay, before we even go into Jesuit control of the media, I'm going to tell you two important papal encyclicals, Miranda Prorsus and Inter Mirifica. And in Inter Mirifica, which is a papal encyclical from the year 1963, just a few years before, before I think the starting of the Second Vatican Council in the same year, Inter Mirifica, it says it is the Church's inherent right to own all media, television, press, movies, and radio, that were the media existent at that time. Look up Miranda Prorsus, look up Inter Mirifica. You can find these papal encyclicals online. You can find them on the Vatican website. Read them for yourself, and then you know who really controls all media. It's of course the Jesuits who are doing the daily work with that, and who put Jewish Ponzis in front of it, to tell you, oh, all media is controlled by the Jews, the dirty Jews. Why do they do that? Because the Roman Catholic Church hates the Jews, and the Bible tells us Bible-believing Christians to embrace the Jews and to provoke the Jews to jealousy because they have given away their salvation and we have gotten it from them. Romans 11. There are but a few of the tentacles of the Jesuit Hydra in America. These enterprises they own and run not in the corporate name of the Society of Jesus, but under various agencies of crypto-Jews, or crypto-Jesuits, whose alliance, when I read crypto, I just read crypto-Jews, sorry, but it's crypto-Jesuits, whose allegiance is to the order and who work under the aegis of the Jesuits. These are the so-called Jesuit coadjutors. In fact, says one learned author, quote, the Jesuit property holdings are so boundless that they are measured by square miles and by degrees of latitude and longitude, rather than by acres or hectares. So much their vows of poverty. And we shall see, too, that throughout their long history, the Jesuits meddled in politics and, quote, they used the sacrament of confession to penetrate the designs of princes, leaders and statesmen, and to manipulate consciences to their own purposes, unquote. They even jobbed Bill Clinton into office, who said of his Jesuit mentor, as a student at Georgetown University, I heard that call by a professor named Carroll Quigley, unquote. Yes, dear listener, Bill Clinton was Jesuit trained, and Bill Clinton was a Jesuit and did the bidding of the Jesuits, and he did that especially with Waco.
That's a really tough one. If you're in America like I am, I still don't get it, Jörg. I still can't see it so clearly. It's just incredible how warped that whole Waco incident is. It requires a lot of time and thought, and I haven't done that. But I just want to say, it's just one of those things that will just throw you off. I mean, the brainwashing they've done to us is just incredible.
If you want to really understand Waco, I advise you to search YouTube on the documentaries from Bob Trefz. B-O-B, Bob, and Trefz, T-R-E-F-Z, Z. Yeah?
Yes, I think I had watched that one, that specific one you were talking about,
yeah,
because
but he
you
made,
had given me a list of videos.
He made more than 3 or 4 in the whole series of Waco.
Yes,
and when you have watched that, you will really understand what was going on at Waco. And you will understand that Waco was one thing, and a few years later, Tony Alamo Ministries' destroyal was exactly the same thing on another level. And Bill Clinton even came out in the 1990s after Waco and said, this is what's going to happen to you when you sectorize, meaning when you are a sect, means when you split off from the mainstream churches and find or found your own ministry. That's what's going to happen to you if you don't accept the authority of the state that is controlled by the church. But watch Bob Trefz for that. We are coming to an end anyway, and that's good, and I will tell you why that is good in a few moments. P.D. Stuart continues, as the former Italian Catholic scholar Paolo Sarpi says in his letters, quote, whenever and wheresoever the Roman Catholic Church has been in the ascendant, it has been a political institution. And whenever or wherever it ceases to be a political power in the land, it instantly becomes a political conspiracy. Unquote. Now, I'm fully aware that these assertions and the discussions which follow may well surprise, if not even shock you. There are those who will no doubt laugh and pooh-pooh these things. They will smile and say, this is no more than an enthusiastic working up of the imagination. mere conspiracy theories by which to allure and tickle weak minds. And so, upon the very subjects indicated and the above-mentioned connections, I now offer details. For I know the state of mind today, and it does not enter into my plan to ignore any theme, any fact which might persuade the doubter or convince the skeptic. In the coming pages we shall offer ready solvents for your incredulities, by means of copious amounts of proofs, a superabundance of the best evidence. But first let us consider an event that transpired in the fall of 1605. We have come to the end of the introduction, I would say, about the secret moneta and the secret instructions of the Jesuits, of the book from P.D. Stuart, Codeword Barbelon, Part 1. And we will next time continue with Chapter 3, the Gunpowder Plot, Guy Fawkes and his friends.
Ooh.
If you wanna do a little study of that subject already on beforehand, you can do that again in Hour of the Truth. I made broadcasts about the Gunpowder Plot. I think that is from 2015, about the time of the 5th of November. I did a broadcast on Reformation Day and the Gunpowder Plot. So when you look into the archives, just look at the date and at the titles of about from today 2 years ago. Today is the 24th of December 2017, so that's about 2 years and a month or two. You can go there and you can prepare yourself by watching those videos before we go into the next reading, which then deals with the Gunpowder Plot, Guy Fawkes and his friends, and this is quite some pages that we have to deal with that. He really goes deep into that until page 58, so that's 21 pages for the Gunpowder Plot that is reserved in this wonderful book, Codeword Barbelon, The Sons of Loyola, Their Plans for World Domination. Now, I also want to end with a little note. When I mentioned during the reading, watch this or this or this video on my channel, this is not to promote my work. But on my channel I know that you can find the truth about things spoken of in Codeword Barbelon in this book that I dealt already with in one way or another on my channel in earlier times. And therefore I advise you to watch these. But please don't feel obliged to just check my channel on that. Search the whole internet, search whole YouTube, go wherever you want, but do your own research. Verify what I say and read from this book and what Bret says and reads from this book, Codeword Barbelon, with your own study. But don't be too lazy not to do it. And when you are going to do it, then when I say look at this playlist or this video on my channel, then I'm only doing that to help you and not to promote my work, which actually is not my work, but the Holy Spirit leading me into all truth, and therefore sharing that with you. Because, you know, Martin Luther said it in the same way, and I read that today in the reading of the Antichrist book. It says here, one should do such great service freely, and I'm speaking about the service that Bret and I am providing by reading these books and doing these studies. As he says, Jesus Christ says in Matthew 10:8, you received without pay, give without pay. One should not seek profit, honor, sensual pleasure, and power on earth through the preaching office. We have a rich reward in heaven. But of course Christians should also without charge nourish and honor the shepherds of Christ's sake, as he himself said, eat and drink whatever there is, for the laborer deserves his work. The point that I want to make is I am doing this work as much as Bret is doing this work in the name and for the glory of Jesus Christ. Not, as the Jesuits say, ad majorem Dei gloriam, for the greater glory of God, but for the greater glory of Jesus Christ, and we are speaking of the Jesus Christ of the Bible and not of the God of the Jesuits, which is Satan, the prince of the air, the prince or the god of this world, as we can read in the Bible. So It is not to promote my channel, it is not to promote my videos, but I know that in these videos you will find the truth that can help you understand the reading of this book, Codeword Barbelon, even better. So now I've said more than enough. I will have Bret for the conclusion of this video. I thank you all for watching and listening and commenting, and until next time, I say thank you very much. God bless you and bye-bye.
Well, thank you very much, Jörg, for your hard work in getting this ball rolling. And the ball we're talking about is, doing your own research. And Jörg is very, very fitting to make this comment that we need to be independent of each other, and we need to verify what we're studying and put that through the test of our own conscience. And don't take anyone's word for it. Don't listen to me and take my word for it. Don't listen to Jörg and take his word for it. You have to study these things on your own and come to your own conclusions. Now, if that matches up with us, great. Please come back. But if you have a problem with that, then you really ought to consider, doing your own work. I mean, this is what I'm trying to tell people is you need to really get the ball rolling. If you want to be part of the body of Christ, it's a deep, a very deep ocean of knowledge that we're trying to come out of. And, I do believe in Revelation chapter 18:4 that the Lord is calling us out of this world and out of the corruption of this world. And whether that be in the churches, in the church institution or in the political institution, they're both the same thing. The two doctrines that the Roman Catholic Church has used to fulfill their diabolical goals on this earth. And they will fulfill it. And, this whole nation state of Israel is a part of it, and all this false teachings. So definitely the praise lies with the Lord alone, sola scriptura. And we stick to that. And we hope you do too, dear listener. And in the spirit of Jesus, our Messiah, who died on the cross 2,000 years ago, we hope to preach that gospel, that the cross is our salvation, that Jesus died on that cross, and that it's not the sign of the cross. It is the preaching of the cross that saves us. So we wish to fulfill Jesus' ministry on this earth through that preaching and through that message of his salvation, his love, his as John 3:16 states, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, who perished for us to give us hope. I'm not quoting this exactly, but we say again, do your own research, and thank you for listening, and we hope to see you again soon. God bless, and bye-bye for now.